Tune in to Heel of the Ring podcast on the Sports Jedi Network channel. May the sports be with you. Because I am the hero the Sports Jedi deserves, but not the one it needs right now. Long live Lexus King.
What's up, Sports Jedi Universe? We are live here, and the energy is absolutely off the chart tonight. You're locked in with us here on the Sports Jedi Network, and if you missed it, what just went down in St. Louis, you missed one of the most wildest PLE in this 2026 brand so far. I'm your host, and you've got a massive show here tonight. We're going to break everything down, every single hit, high-flying spot, absolute chaos, what was NXT Stand and Deliver, and the landscape of NXT has shifted, and we got new champions, massive upsets, a lot of questions about what's happening next. But before we dive into the wreckage of the main event and the card, you know how we do. If you're in the chat, drop a one, drop your comments. You know you're with us. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe. And if you haven't already, we're on the road at plus 20,000 plus strong and growing each and every day because of you. Tonight's coverage is fueled by our credible partners. If you're looking to lock in for the long haul, grab some G Fuel Energy. Go to gfuelenergy.com. Use the promo code PGHChris at checkout. And not keep it clean with Dude Wipes. Use the code, all capital letters, Dude, save. And, of course, if you're starting your morning right, like tomorrow morning, Easter Sunday, make sure you have your Blackout Coffee. Go to blackoutcoffee.com. Use my promo code SportsJedi20 and save. So we got the whole Sports Jedi. We got our new partner here, our new co-host here. But before we get rolling, we're going to talk about Tony D'Angelo grabbing the big one, Lola Vife with a statement win, and the fallout of Joe Hendry's night. So grab your drinks, get comfortable, get in your chat. Let's go. And I'm going to introduce my partner here on this review, the one and only Haas Knuckle Brew. What's up? How are you?
All right. How we doing, guys? How did y'all enjoy the show? I enjoyed it completely. I want to hear from y'all in the chat, in the comments. Let me know. Let us know. How did you like Stand and Deliver this evening?
Absolutely. Now, I'm going to give you a brief of the 10 mixed tag match that happened to kick off the show. You had Hank and Tank, Shiloh Hill, Eli Knight, and Ren Sinclair. They defeated the Birthright, which meant the Lexus King Stacks, Charlie Dempsey, Uranus Kaina, and your TNA Knockouts champion, Jordan Grace, via pinfall in the 10-man tag. It was a fun opener to me. You got to give something for Birthright to go. The one thing I have a little bit of concern is, okay, you're making this group Birthright, where all these second-generation stars or sons and daughters of the second-generation wrestlers, except for Stacks, I need them to start winning. All I'm seeing is a lot of L and losses. And sooner or later, you're not going to take them serious, and they're not going to click.
I'm with you on that one because this is a faction. They seem like they're putting a lot behind this faction, and you're right. They need to get W's. And the thing about it, I know we're gonna talk about the main event, but I think the players in the Birthright, they're gonna play a lot into our main event players. I really believe so.
Yeah, especially with the shifting of the men and possible call-ups, throughout the show where we'll talk about what we think might be happening. And maybe we're waiting probably the after Stand and Deliver after the road to WrestleMania is completed and who's going to get elevated to the main roster and so forth. And let's face it, I hate to say the word, also cuts. This is the world we live in. After the cuts, after the roster call-ups, maybe that's where we're going to find out who's going to get the initial push in the Birthright and go forward, and which players start moving up on the elevation charts of pushes and so forth with NXT and the main roster. But let's go right in. One thing that surprised me, the opening contest. I wasn't expecting right off the bat to get the triple threat for the NXT Women's Championship. Was that a pleasant surprise, or how did you feel with the card placement of having them opening up?
When I saw this, I thought they was gonna make a folly and have JC Jane retain. When they had this title match be number one, I was scared. Because I was like, wait a minute. Everybody thinks JC Jane's going to move on to the main roster pretty soon. If you keep her with that belt, what's the direction for NXT? So the formatting of it being number one, I was worried.
And rightfully so. Rightfully so, especially because here's the one thing I'm going to say. Now, this is a total second guess, and I don't want to jump in ahead of ourselves because I want to break down the kind of the same orders that the matches came out. When I first saw that, I said, well, I'm expecting something really big or whoa factor for the main event. Because, to be honest with you, the triple threat with the ladies is much more stronger than the men. And I felt that way. I felt the ladies here, to me, were more, if you would have told me they're your main event, I wouldn't have batted an eye. And I understand you have All Legal Page, you have also Ricky Saints, Joe Hendry, big names there. But I was like, man, I would have loved to see the main event to be the ladies, especially, they made history. We'll go right into it. And I'll explain. Lola Vice managed to walk in and walk away with the gold in the triple threat after a controversial build-up at Madison Square Garden involving JC Jane Fatal Influence Stable. Back and forth they went, and I was on my pins. I was on my edge of my seat because were they really going to really put the title on Lola Vice? Kendall Gray has catch the wrestling eye by storm and was totally so well deserved too. She's great in ring, phenomenal. But I wanted to, as a babyface, I wanted to see her have a little bit of a struggle. One thing that I personally get a little bit don't care about is Stephanie Becker, because I feel Stephanie had it too easy. She came up to the main roster, won the Women's Battle Royal in Evolution, was the number one contender, won the world title, was Crown Royal champion, all that stuff. And I was like, a little too easy. What adversity she has. I was afraid that they would try to do that with Kendall. She dropped the Evolve title, and now if she comes and wins this NXT title so quickly, it was like, are we pushing her a little too fast? Well, rightfully deserved, yes, but then you're leapfrogging ladies like Lola Vice, Kalani Jordan, Zarya, where they were already there in the trenches putting the work in. So I like that they protected her in this triple threat. Your thoughts on the outcome of the match and the match in general?
Okay, the match was very good. I'm not a fan of Dave Meltzer, but if I was going to do stars for this match, I'd say 4.5, close to 5.
We use lightsabers here.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so I'm going to give this match. Give me 4.5 green lightsabers. Let's go. With
nice. That. I like green.
Let's go with that because it was a lot of mastery in this going into this, because these women, they were clicking. You can see the chemistry in this match. I mean, they didn't really miss too many beats. So it was very smooth, very crisp. And I was happy with Lola winning, even though I predicted Kendall to go over. Lola winning shows that they're finna go somewhere with big diversity in NXT. It seemed like they really want to push getting the fan base up. And I don't want to make that sound divisive by using the term diversity, but they want to expand the base, and I have no problem with that. So Lola Vice winning, they're gonna, like you talked about it earlier today. She's gonna be in AAA with this belt. It's gonna be a lot of moving with her as a champion, and I'm with it. I dig it.
No, and let me ask this to you. Seeing how, like I mentioned, when we were earlier doing our weekly review and you joined us, and of course, and now we're going to see House Boss joining the Sports Jedi Network on a more frequent aspect, part of the channel and so forth. So welcome aboard officially on the channel and all from us. And now I was saying earlier with you, with Lola Vice working in AAA and getting all the reps, Undertaker, who is a producer and pretty much in charge of AAA, it likes Lola Vice, her work, seeing her, and let's face it, it benefits NXT. For now, you have another base in Mexico, which they love Lucha Libre, they love Lola Vice, to now want to watch NXT. When she shows up to AAA with the NXT Women's title on her shoulder, along with the mixed tag title, they're going to now tune in. And now you're growing your audience base even more with the Mexican fan base in Mexico and in South and Central America as well. And not even to mention the Caribbean. It's just great job there. They also made history. Firstborn Cuban champion in WWE history. So they continue to make history in all aspects, breaking barriers down. And for Lola, congratulations, Valerie, watching you in Bellator and now watching, seeing your career in Bellator, seeing you in the Octagon, and now meeting you when you were in Chase U there in the Performance Center, now seeing you as the NXT Women's Champion. Bravo.
And my thing with Lola winning, and like this is not a slight to her, she's a very good competitor. With her as champion, she needs to work on her gimmick. Because the thing about it, like I believe she's going to be called up fairly soon, and I don't want her getting lost in the shuffle when that happens. Because we talked about how creative drops the ball on talent. She has to have a discernible gimmick that the main roster fans can just latch onto. Because it's the same thing with Kendall Gray, because they're great in-ring talents, but that's just not going to be enough to get over. We want them to be over. That's the goal. Like, because we want these women to sell merch when they do move up. So Lola Vice, I know she's a world beater. I understand that, but she needs to do something, and I can see her leaning to with Sexy Red, trying to make her more approachable for main roster fans. I see that, so she just needs to work on her gimmick. All three women here, very good competitors. They could do some refining on their gimmicks.
Yeah, and one thing for Lola, I know she's, and it can't help it. She's a martial artist. She's a mixed martial artist fighter. One thing that I'm worried, I don't want her to get stuck in that vortex of Shayna Baszler, Ronda Rousey, Marina Shafita. They're all badasses. I wouldn't want to see them in an elevator and say what I'm about to say. But when it doesn't translate to wrestling, because they all are boring, character-wise, but they could kick our asses.
Yes.
So I don't want that to fall in that place when it comes to Lola Vice. For her, I'm so proud and happy that she's the champion. And one thing I was joking around with Chris when we were watching the watch along, I said her parents are not at ringside. I think she's winning, because every time the man is there at ringside, they always lose. She always loses except for the underground match. But for the world titles, I think she was like 0-3, really? 1-3 now. Yeah, her dad is always at ringside. They show him, and she's not going over. This time I didn't see the pops and the family. I think she might be winning. Let me ask this: the presentation of JC Jane coming to the ring, it screams she's leaving to the main roster.
Yes. And with the thing about, I'm really worried about JC Jane going up. If she goes up there by herself, it may be trouble, because she needs that faction really sets off her presentation. Now, if she goes there and joins, say, I'm just going to use the Judgment Day for an example. I don't think it's going to happen, but she needs that. She is not main character potential on the main roster just yet, because her gimmick says rock star down here in NXT. It's still not strong enough to just say, look at JC Jane on Raw. It's not big enough yet. So I wish they would call up maybe Fallon, like y'all was talking about earlier. Bring somebody up there with her, so it could bring the transition that much easier. Like, you got to set your talent up for success. Don't just put them out there and just say, "Oh, sink or swim," because we know how y'all going to do it. Most of these talents are going to sink, and they'll be great. They really be great, but you're not making them great.
Yeah, they need to take them to another level and give them the tools to help them, or the pave the road for them to take that road to the next level and elevate. That's what creative is. Creative is going to present the road, and the talent decides which road they're going to take for them. And if creative don't pull that road, or don't open up the bridge for them to get to the other side of getting over and getting to the level that they need to make money and to elevate, then what are we doing here? Listen, let me throw this out there. If this intrigues you, would this intrigue you that you have Fallon Henley, JC Jane alongside Kiana James on the main roster, and they're the new the Fatal Influence on the main roster, where Lainey Reed is still eventually will come back, will go when she's ready and stay in NXT, getting ready, and with the end game of coming in and kicking out either whoever at that time, at that moment when she's ready. But I would like to see Kiana James, Fallon Henley, and JC Jane as the new Fatal Influence on the main roster.
I would like that. The booking would dictate how strong it would go, because you could book Kiana Jane strong right now. You really could do
yes.
That. You could break her away from Julia. They could have a rivalry tomorrow, and you call up, because they got Kiana playing this what I'm looking for the word. I can't say it right. Consigliere. Is that what they
That's
say?
that's a nice one. The consigliere. Yeah.
Yes, that's the role she's playing. So if you're gonna give me a Godfather type role for the ladies, that could cook. So yeah, I like that idea. Kiana, Fallon, and JC, that would work. But you have to book them strongly from the jump. So if you want to do that, have them go against Jade and the baddies right now.
You took it away from me. You thinking, and look, this is our first show together, working alone, and we're already thinking on the same wavelength. Because I say, how bad would you be that Jade, that right now after WrestleMania, I think Jade is going to retain, and Kiana James becomes a number one contender, where it brings strife a little bit to Julia, but then you bring up the girls to back up, Kiana, and Julia gets a little bit jealous or whatever the case, and they break off. I mean, something along, but we're asking too much for creative to actually make something make sense. Yes. I mean, especially in SmackDown. I mean,
it's a shame that we can't count on people that with the name creative to be creative.
Yeah. And a lot of the IWC, a lot of wrestling fans, not just us, not to blow smoke out. There's a lot of people with good ideas out there. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying put them ahead of writing, because they could give you a moment good ideas. I could give you a good moment good ideas, but I can't book 6 to 9 months of a wrestling show where everything makes sense. I will get lost in the shuffle. I'm like, because everyone thinks, everyone wants to be an opinion and wants to be a creative booker or a writer for storylines. I say I have good ideas, but I can't follow it up and write and make up for 6 to 9 months. If that was that, but I don't have that type of creativity to think ahead. I got to worry about, that's not my job. I don't get paid for that. I get paid to wire homes. I'm just doing this as fun, breaking down wrestling. But all in all, I enjoyed the opening contest. I thought I was surprised with the outcome and where they matched. They placed it. I like that Ren Sinclair took away the girls, where JC James was alone for a moment. Well, it kind of was a foreshadowing of her future, possibly. She's probably going to be alone now, and now it's time for her to strap up, put on her big girl pants, and go out there. And if that was the end of her career, I'm glad I got to see 3 out of the 5 years of her personally, from Toxic Attraction. I tell you from my personal experience, when she won the title from Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai back at that Stand and Deliver in Dallas, that's when I became a fan of the whole NXT program. Okay. So she was the first match that I saw. And I said, man, this is fun. And then Braun took it over the top, because I didn't know he was, Rick Stein.
I think you froze up there right there, Kev.
I probably did a little bit. I just saw it. Yeah, but I said from the moment I saw her for the very first time, the first match for Stand and Deliver, I've been a fan of NXT since. So if this is our last match, thank you for the NXT run that she had. Also, I say this, privileged to be at Slammiversary this year when she won the Knockouts title. So thank you, JC Jane. Appreciate it.
My closing thoughts on this match is, I was surprised they didn't start a new angle off of this. So I guess they left us with a cliffhanger for NXT on Tuesday, I guess, because we don't know the direction, like who's going to be her next challenger. I mean, because Kendall Gray is a babyface as well, and they're not going to go that route. Like they're gonna knock Kendall down just a peg, like you say. She's got to build back up. So who is Lola going to be? Who's going to be next? Who do you think going to be, Kev?
I think we're going to get a few ladies like Izzy Dane. You're going to get Ruka. You're going to get a few ladies interrupting the celebration, because they're going to do a celebration on Tuesday night. I've seen this plenty of time, and Robert Stone is going to make a number one contendership, throughout the couple of weeks to figure out her new opponent to possibly spring break, for the, television show program that they're going to have on CW, that, they're like their episode that they like to do. I don't think they'll push it to the next PLE, but I think they'll find a number one contender for her while that's happening. So possibly there, or maybe we'll have one more match at the Performance Center for JC Jane versus Lola Vice, and then they'll try the number one contenders. I don't know. I think either way will work for me, Haas. I don't know. What about you? Would you like to see a definitive number one, someone to stake the claim Tuesday, or would you like them to find a number one contender or the rematch?
If we're gonna go a rematch, honestly, I may be the only one in the minority on this one.
Okay.
I believe they need to go back with Kaylani. I know they just had the underground match. I know that should be over, but Lola got the belt now. Why wouldn't Kaylani want to go back at her now?
I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind, unfinished business with Jada Parker. Me and you got, she could tell, that's why I think they're gonna have like a number one contendership type of thing, because we're gonna get all these different ladies coming out with the microphone like they like to do an NXT special, and they're gonna say why they deserve it, why this one. We got unfinished history. Kalani, we have underground. I got to give you a receipt for that underground knockout. And you're gonna have rematch clause. Kendall Gray, well, I beat you in Madison Square Garden thanks to the help of the referee. So there's going to be a lot of women from the woodwork claiming and staking a piece of Lola Vice, where I think we might have a tournament for a number one contender for her. I think that's a interesting way to buy her time for Lola Vice to stay as champion, because and make her while you build a competitor that's strong and vice versa. I think I can see that. But either way they do it, I'm ready for the new reign of Lola Vice. It's Vice City time. Let's go.
Yes, sir.
Let's go to the next match here. Interesting here. Yeah, we got I'm going to go with Sol Ruka and Zarya. The match was a pure showcase of athleticism versus power. Zarya dominating early with her strength, but the crowd stayed behind Sol, where we saw in the Performance Center, it was mostly Zarya friendly and anti-Sol. The finish in the closing moments, Sol Ruka hitting a spectacular Soul Snatcher out of nowhere, picking up a huge momentum victory. But either that is just the sequence there, hitting her over and over with normal times. I thought when the F5 was hit I said, oh, damn, Zarya was going to go over. I know when the match finished, Haas, I said, damn, they couldn't even give Zarya that victory over Sol, so Sol could go to the main roster and give her that victory to build her strong. But at the end of the day, it's a blow-off match where they finally close the chapter. Sol wins. Zarya's not going anywhere in NXT. You can always heat up Zarya later on with rage, anger, kind of a little tap into a little Keanu Carver, pissed off. And there's also NXT deadline at the end of the year for the Iron Survivor. She could eliminate and destroy the Iron Survivor, or even in a tournament. Your thoughts on the match, and where do we go and the victory? Did you like it? And give me your thoughts.
The match was great. I was disappointed with the finish and with the winner. I thought Zarya should have went over. I do not understand why they keep letting Sol win. Zarya won me with that promo a couple weeks ago. Sol, and here's the saddest part about it. They want to make Sol his babyface. She can't act. Her facial cues, it just could not sell me on her. Say, oh, my best friend betrayed me. I don't buy it. You come off evil. I see it in your eyes. Even with the post interview she had when Izzy Dame came in there and talked to her. She looked soulless. She didn't seem like she just fought her best friend. Like she fought an enemy. I don't understand. So, and when Zarya went up for that avalanche F5, I'm like, yes, come on,
my God,
please. And I was just like, it's too good to be true. It's too good. They're not gonna let Sol go out like that. Like, yeah. I just thought Zarya was gonna ragdoll Sol like you see on the 2K26 videos, but it's just too good to be true. So I was highly disappointed with that. The match was great though. The match, like when Zarya grabbed her head and they would start doing the headbutts and whatnot, I'm like, the tide's finna turn. They're actually gonna do some booking right here. And I'm just like, Sean, why are we going Triple H, bro? It doesn't make sense. Sol is about to leave. She don't need no rub. She's Sol Ruka down here. She don't need no rub. Zarya needs that rub. But it just didn't make sense. That's how
I'm with you. I'm with you that Zarya needed the rub. And I think Triple H did get involved and said, I can't have her lose because we're going to bring her up and we need her to win. But all you have to do is show her that she was handpicked by John Cena in the tournament. People, and she beat Bayley. You don't need to. If she lost if she would have lost to Zarya, who cares? No one really is gonna, on Monday Night Raw go, oh, she lost to Zarya. Zarya is impressive. Her finish is an F5. She's like a Brock Lesnar woman out there, female Brock Lesnar in NXT. I wish they book her that way. with that kind of a female beast. Like the only person that booked her strongly was TNA when she fought Ying Ying Lee at Genesis. That was a hell of a booking on her, and I was like, this is how Zarya needs to get booked. And by the way, Zarya is the first person to ever kick out of the Soul Snatcher cleanly.
They did justice with that. They really did. And the thing about it, Zarya, when she does the F5, you're right. It looks like Brock. She throws the hell out of these women when she do that F5. I don't know is the way that she sold that, but Zarya gets some lift on that F5. She do you bad. So
she does. She's got a good lift and that spear, Haas.
Yes, like that's why I was so disappointed in the finish. I'm just like, it's no way you're gonna let this should be your monster heel for your women right now. It should be. She didn't need that L. Now you're gonna try to, like, I know you say you could reheat her, which you could, but it's gonna take a while. It's gonna because the NXT viewership, they're not gonna view Zarya as they should. Like, oh, she just lost the soul. Like, oh, whatever. And I'm just like, when Soul goes to the main roster fans ain't gonna know nothing about this. Most of them don't watch NXT. So her winning or losing, they wouldn't even know. Most of the people you come across, they don't even know about the Trick Mello saga down here. So,
Excellent. No, that's what I'm saying. Iron Survivor, and that's in December. So look how long I'm giving her for them to try to get her heat up and win that. So I'm giving her, almost 7 months away from now. Maybe 8. And
And like I said before, like I really believe it's going to be Kendall Gray and Zarya. I believe it's going to be a big program.
It could be there, and that might be not next year's Stand and Deliver or something along the lines there. You never know what happens there for it, I'm for it. Look, I love her presentation to Zarya. I've been one of those, been advocate with her, and if it sucks that she felt like she was the third or fourth person pushed to the super back when they brought in Julia, Stephanie Becker, Jordan Grace, and Zarya got pushed even more back. And Jordan Grace wasn't even booked nowhere near strong in NXT. They booked her like nonsense, to be honest with you. And then Zarya's stuck in the mud. Like, what are we doing? Frustrating to see. I hope that she's not pissing people off in the back, or not putting the work in as a student. And because we don't know what happens, attitude wise, booking, tardiness, all those things that are outside of our control that we don't know could be holding her back. I hope not. I hope that she's a model citizen that, I have a hard time believing that she's not, there's something else, because when you move across from another continent, Australia, to come here and see, and you have to be fully committed. You're away from home, you're away from it. You got to be committed. And especially with the success that Rhea Ripley has, that's a motivational tactic. From Adelaide, from the same town, the same place, and maybe she's taking it for granted. I'm gonna be the next Rhea Ripley, and maybe they're trying to humble her and break her. You're not gonna be the Ripley. You got to work even harder than what Rhea Ripley has accomplished. Maybe that's what it is.
It could be. I tell you this: the best booking they did for her in this match. She got soul snatched 3 times in this match. I mean, even one on the outside, which it looked very nasty.
Yeah.
So she got out of 3 of those. I will say they still did book her strongly in defeat, but like that the Avalanche X Factor that Soul did, I was just like, man, they got Zarya looking real tough out here. So I don't know, but I hope they do use her. I know what you just said about we don't know about what goes on backstage. I hope none of that is what's going on, because she could really be a big focal point for NXT going forward.
Yeah, and especially with all the turnovers with the women that are rumored to go up, that have gone up and might be going up. She's one of those that you could really build a foundation around, that obstacle, that monster, that mountain, that like roadblock that's in the way and log jamming that women's world title in that division. So my last thing with it, and we'll move on to the tag team. Did she go over without going over in your eyes?
Yes.
Okay.
Because like I say, the fans aren't dumb. If I saw her as a face coming out of that promo battle, many of them did too. I believe they were cheering for Soul because they just generally like Soul Ruka. But just kayfabe and storyline wise, they were rolling with Zarya.
I think they're rolling with Zarya, but I need Zarya to stay as a heel. I need her. I need her to stay as a heel. I need her to stay in the heel. All right, let's go to the NXT tag team titles. He had the Vanity Projects taking on Los Americanos. It was a fast-paced tag team clinic. Los Americanos had the championship in the heels, several of high-flying double team maneuvers. Outcome, the finish, the champions maintained and isolated their opponents, used a blind tag to set up the finisher, retaining the gold in a hard-fought contest. We saw El Grande Americano at ringside, Jackson Drake also at ringside, back and forth they went. It was a fun match. Lucha Libre style with the Americano. We saw little Pete Dunne with the fingers manipulation. That was funny when they did it to him. And he's like, are you kidding me? You're trying to finger manipulate me. I saw a little bit of Tyler Bates, off the ropes, springboard, clothesline. And I enjoyed the match here. I'm not a big fan of Vanity Project, but the right time champions won because, yes, I understand in the world how these young wet behind the ears beat these professionals, but they weren't wrestling Pete Dunne and Tyler Bates, and we're wrestling Los Americanos. So we supposedly don't know who's under the mask. I could tolerate that win there, Haas.
With Vanity Project, I like them. I do. I know they're small men, but they fit the heel mold for a mid-card team. They're interesting enough. They're not bland. I will say that. They may look bland, but they're not bland characters. So I can take them winning and having the tag team titles for now. I can never see them going face. They got to forever be heels. They will never make sense as faces because you can see Jackson Drake is just that. He's evil Fred from Scooby-Doo. That's how I see it. That's what I see. So yeah, I'm a fan of the Vanity Project. They may not ever be a thing on the main roster because they're just too small. They're just too small. But as a mid-card talent group here in NXT, I can see them growing to be the heels that everybody's going to hate in about a year or so. I can see it.
Look, Pretty Deadly got over in NXT UK, NXT main roster. If you look at them and you see them in the roster, you see how they with the disco ball, like they looked at cringe when they got on the main roster, but they were super over and they were good in NXT. Maybe I got to see that and compare them to Vanity Project. One thing with Vanity Project that I was going to say, they remind me a lot of Mean Street Posse back in the day. That's why I see, and that's maybe why they just remind me of Mean Street Posse.
And with Los Americanos, I want to see more of them in NXT. Honestly, they need to be going because next year they should be if they keep the gimmick going. Because I'm one of the few people that like the Americanos' whole gimmick. I like it.
Me too.
I have liked El Grande Americano since they debuted it. I found it very funny. For a supposed to be serious TV show on Mondays and Fridays, it's refreshing to have these gag characters. I mean, Chad Gable, Ludwig Kaiser, very fun project. So if you're going to keep the Americanos going, let them run in NXT for another 6 months and then bring them back strong next year in the tag team division on the main roster. Because as you know, Friday nights could use them. Monday nights sure could use them. So yeah, don't let them run cold. And as we see down in AAA, they're going to keep them strong down there too. So let's just keep that going. But I like it. I like it.
I'm with you. One thing that I worried, and I'm glad, I'm so thankful for the second Americano with Kaiser taking over the role of the second Americano was, you're gonna see me once in a while when I do some streams. Tonight I didn't wear I have a Gunther shirt with Imperium. I was a big Imperium fan. And when I saw Giovanni Vinci, they didn't use their potential with Vinci with Kaiser. To me, they should have been tag team champions when they first called up. And that's another rant for another day. But when Kaiser wasn't working, he was too talented to not have anything going on. That Chad Gable injury was a blessing in disguise for Ludwig Kaiser to put on the mask of the Americano, because look how over he's in Mexico. This guy will never be unbooked in Mexico. He will always have a booking in Mexico. And hence, who knew that we even found out that he speaks so much Spanish fluently. I mean, my God, the guy talks better Spanish than myself probably at times in the conversations. And I'm descendant, the guy speaks proper Spanish. Awesome. And it's like, wow, Kaiser is just another level, incredible when he's speaking. And the Americanos that are his lackeys, also Pete Dunne, Tyler Bates. gives him work to do. Let's face it, Tyler Bates in the main roster at his height. What's the ceiling? I know he was the first United States UK champion, Triple H's guy that he recruited from the UK Indies, but how far was he going to get in the main roster as Tyler Bates? You know, with the No Catch Republic group, they weren't really gonna. You know, you've got the Creed brothers in the main roster, and they're not even being used, and they are freaking two guys who are 6'4", big brothers that are big guys. They're not even being used. So imagine how much frustrating. Thank goodness for the Americano gimmick. I know it's not everyone's cup of coffee, but they're being utilized. Them not winning the titles, I'm okay with it. Let me read the comments. Thank you. I'm new to this world. Appreciate it, man. Thank you for all the comments. Thank you for everyone that's watching along with us. One thing I love about this nuance, El Grande wearing the black mask in the States and wearing the green flag in Mexico. Great way to distinguish character without saying words. Great point. That's a freaking great point there. Really great point, because I was like, why is he wearing the black and gold? You know, where, you know, to me that seems like German, you know, that black and gold and that type of, the heel. And you know what? That's a great distinguish, because he is over. As I watch AAA every Saturday night, and this guy, man, the receptions. This guy, they're giving them newborn kids for him to hold and kiss. Okay. No, seriously, the people in the front row. Last episode, this lady had a newborn child, like maybe 2.5 months old, gave it to Kaiser for him to hold and kiss. Like, that's how over Kaiser is in Mexico. I mean, this guy is just phenomenal with that Grande Americano gimmick. And the right outcome here for the tag team match, I say, you know what? I'm okay with it. You know, again, Battery Project doesn't have to be just for me. They don't book the show for me, but I understand their value currently right now in NXT going forward. Let's go to something that had some nostalgic value, was this North American Championship match. You had Miles Bourne taking on Johnny Gargano. The match, the heartbeat of NXT, returned to his home turf to challenge the dominant Bourne. Gargano emptied his playbook, hitting one of the final beat for very close 2.9. And I thought Gargano was going to be there, a new champion, but then Bourne power eventually overwhelmed the veteran. He caught Gargano midair and drove him into the mat and retained his title, proving the new generation of NXT is firmly in control of the brand. Haas, your thoughts?
I was worried that they were going to bury Miles Bourne tonight, because if Gargano would have won, that would have showed a lack of confidence in Miles Bourne. So okay. I'm happy that he went over. Gargano, he gave a great effort. Him and Candice LeRae with this heel thing, her coming there and just bopping people in the face, it's cool. I like it. And then he went back to the whole planking action for a little second. I'm like, Johnny, what are we doing? What are we doing, man? But he's like, oh, we playing possum. I'm like, okay, this is cool. I can roll with that. But yeah, it gave. But no, did you notice that he was getting the face treatment down here? They were yelling Johnny Wrestling the whole night.
Yes.
So that was very surprising to me, because I know these people love Miles Bourne, but all you heard was Johnny Wrestling, and I'm just like, oh, what's going on here? So St. Louis really surprised me on that one, but this match was very good. All right, if this is one of the matches that people need to go back to if they want to watch the whole PLE, go watch this, because this will take people back to black and gold like everybody loves to talk about, and it's just like, okay. We know Johnny's not getting booked worth a damn on the main roster. Here's your guy right here. He cooked tonight. I agree. And Miles Bourne, shout out to him. He has no gimmick. He really needs to work on that. And we talked about managers earlier. Let's get this guy a manager, because I don't want to make it seem like I'm going after his disability. But we just have to be real about it. He's not going to be able to cut these promos like you want. But he has the physical presence. I will give him that. That guy goes hard in the gym. He got a good presentation. But that's all I got to say about Miles Bourne. He's a good guy. Johnny Gargano wrestled great tonight. Yeah, this was a very good match.
I thought Johnny was going to win when Candice hit him, raked the eyes, and then Johnny hit his move and that sequence there behind the referee's back, and then Johnny went for the cover. I said, son of a gun, they're going to get the title on Johnny just to get him, ready to go and I was actually surprised. that Miles retained the way he retained with the finisher. Great, like you said, match. You know, some people could put, and if you were to tell me and we're having a conversation, say that this was your match of the night, I can't rebuttal and argue because it was that freaking good, you know. And we'll get that at the end of the show, which one we thought was our match of the night. But if you say that, I can't tell you no. That I don't believe that.
I mean,
really,
Gargano's just a good worker. That's just credit to him. He
Yes.
made Miles Bourne look very good tonight. I will say that.
Yeah, when he did that pop-up power bomb on the ropes, to the side of the ropes too, there was some sequence that, man, Johnny, why are we not, you know, and Johnny's story is still going to continue because there's something along with the machine guns, with at least Alex Shelley, that they're going to continue. There's a storyline behind that for them. We'll see where that goes on Friday nights, where it's going to, how long he's going to be in his slumber and his, you know, if he's going to go back to the planking for him. We will find out. Only time will tell. Great match here, and another match that for the women's NXT North American title. You know, we had back-to-back North American titles matchup. Tatum Paxley versus Blake Monroe. The match, Monroe came out with a chip on her shoulder after stealing the physical title. In weeks prior, the match was intense and it felt personal. The finisher, Paxley retains her with her finisher, Monroe off, and finally getting the physical title back in possession from Blake Monroe. One thing I like about seeing Tatum Paxley, she did come out, she played the role great when she came out without the title, but she held an invisible title in her hand and up like as she was bringing in the title. And I like that from Tatum Paxley. And also I wanted to hear, Haas, the crowd, if they were behind Tatum, because the Performance Center, living myself in Orlando, we get a little too friendly and familiar with the talents in from the Performance Center. We have our faves, and sometimes the right person doesn't get the proper cheer. Like you were mentioning earlier about the Johnny Wrestling, and you felt weird because they're not in Orlando where they, you know, let's face it, us in the Performance Center, when they go, the diehards go a lot and they go frequently, they can kind of control a little bit of the narrative, who that's going to get the cheer and gets over cost.
Okay. I will say this in this match about Tatum Paxley's presentation. I just got into NXT heavy at the beginning of the year. I watched it here and there last year, but I got into it heavy this year. And everybody was telling me to watch Tatum Paxley. And I was just like, I don't get it. I don't understand why y'all love Tatum Paxley. But over the last few months and weeks I've just been watching, her character is great. She's won me over. This whole goth kid with the dollhouse, this gimmick is great. And I know why people love it. And whenever they call her up, it's going to work. They're waiting too long on it, but it's going to work. So when she came out with that vignette when she walked out, when she was talking about Blake being the prettiest doll in the dollhouse and all this and that, I felt all of that. I'm like, I don't even need to see the match. I know she's going to go kick Blake's ass. I know that's going to happen. So, yes, her presentation was great. Blake Monroe as this narcissistic, glamorous heel is wonderful. I love it. You got your AEW diehards that love to say, oh, her run is terrible. They're misusing Mariah May. Oh, she fumbled and she should have stayed with AEW. No, her character is showing out. And everybody, now, okay, I know this is not an AEW stream. I understand that. But everybody thinks the wins and losses are the big thing in wrestling. That is not what this is about.
Exactly. Preach.
Yes, her character is great. She can go on a 15-match losing streak, and it'll still work because we're here to see her. Like, she was up here, the screams during the match. You felt that. You see all the emotion, and then her and Tatum were playing off each other great. So this was. Oh, I know we're gonna talk about later. This was my match of the night.
Okay.
I enjoyed the theater of this match. It wasn't even about the moves. It was just about their physical connection in that ring. It really sold both of their characters.
I could see that. I can see how that is your favorite match of the night. My dog decides to barge in. All right. Yeah, it's always good. I got a nice big husky there. And to me, this was match of the night. I could see where I said, look, the right person went over. I said, Tatum Paxley needs the victory over Blake Monroe. I wouldn't want her to lose that North American title to Blake Monroe. I said, would it be something she came in with a fake invisible title as champion and then leave with nothing? I'm like, I told Chris on the watch on, that'd be kind of messed up. Because I here's my thing. It sounded a little bit harsh, but Blake, if I tell you next year, Blake Monroe gets called up to the main event and she wins the women's NXT title, do you believe it? If I tell you that?
You say if she wins the women's
No, like next year, if I had a crystal ball, I tell you for sure, Blake Monroe will be in main event WrestleMania next year and possibly win the women's world title. It's believable.
I believe.
All right. Now, if I say that about Tatum Paxley,
no.
That's why I think Tatum needed that victory, because Blake will move on to greener pastures in the main roster whenever they call her up. And Tatum, if she does get called up, she's going to go as far as the mid card type of the title. She might get a world title opportunity in the main roster, maybe, but I don't know if she'll win it. And I don't know if she'll. But we could see Blake Monroe has WrestleMania main event over Tatum, and I think Tatum needed. And I know you don't book it for you don't book it that way. I understand that. But I'm looking at the longer longevity, who's going to benefit more, and I think Tatum could have benefited more, and I think she will, and she did. Now, what's next? I always say what's next for the North American title? What's next for Blake Monroe? Do you revisit Miss Parker again? I kind of don't want to see that. Izzy Dane and Blake, or what's Tatum and Maisie again? I kind of want to see something fresh.
For Blake Monroe, and people are going to be like, she's failing upwards. I can see Blake going with Lola Vice. I can see that.
I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah, because it's going to bring the best out of Lola if you get her the character of Blake Monroe. So I believe that'll be the great way to go with that. For Tatum Paxley, I honestly don't know where they go with Tater. I don't know, because she's overstayed her welcome in NXT. She's been down here so long, and her character is great. Like, her winning another belt won't do her any justice, because they gave her the big belt for a little while, like we talked about it earlier today, and they took it right off her real quick. And I never understood that either. So, because I'll say this, and this might be a little hyperbole by me, but Tatum Paxley is what they wanted Rhea Ripley to be. And let me break this down. Okay. Rhea Ripley is a physical, dominant presence, but she's boring as dishwater. Just seriously. You get Tatum, if Tatum Paxley was the same size as Rhea Ripley, Tatum Paxley would be women's champ. No question about it. Because her character, that goes anywhere. And it transcends ages of people. You got your older goth people that used to be the young goth kids, and you got the goth kids that's coming up. You can see yourself in Tatum Paxley. You can't see yourself in Rhea Ripley. So that's why I wish they would. I hope they book her to be a world champ when they do call her up, because it's very believable. So because she's interesting, she's very interesting.
Okay.
So I'm big. Like I said, I didn't get it at first, but I'm sold on it. It's a real money idea. Like I say, they sell us mommy is always on top as this big goth strong woman, but the goth characters that's more believable is Tatum Paxley.
So, let me say, I mentioned I was talking into this on Chris on our watch along. I said, what if Io Sky, Rhea Ripley, they're having an issue with when it comes to the baddies, the Jay Cargill's group, and so Ruka comes to help, and then Zarya is jealous that again, my own countrymate picks Zo over me, whatever. But actually, the one that makes sense to be with Rhea Ripley is Tatum Paxley, to be alongside of her with Io Sky kind of help out, neutralize the fashion group that's there, especially that the rumor that Rhea Ripley staying on SmackDown longer. It kind of like a different, it have to be Judgment Day 2.0, but kind of a Damian Priest, Tatum Paxley, and Rhea Ripley. I kind of like to see those guys all together. But then Io Sky go back to Monday Night Raw. But I don't know if they'll do it. But that's there. There's something that they could invest in maybe later down the road in the months to come after post WrestleMania. Who knows? I mean, that's a nice idea throwing out there. I like Tatum. I still think Blake has a higher ceiling when it comes to the WWE creative. Because let's face it, the blondes get quickly pushed up in WWE. There's a blonde obsession.
It's a fact.
There's a blonde obsession in WWE, which my chat always says that.
It's the thing, but the thing with Blake Monroe is it's gonna really give you a dividing line between her and Tiffany, Tiffany time. Yeah, it's gonna be the thing about that is you can't have them on the same show because they're gonna same thing with Charlotte Flair. You can't have those three women on the same show. It's just too much ego there. Even though we are seeing Charlotte being this baby face, you can't have all three of those women on the same show.
Not only that, wait until Izzy Dame gets ready for the main roster. It's another big blonde.
Izzy Dame should not be wrestling. Izzy Dame should be a valet or a manager, but that's a different discussion.
Really? I think she's a good wrestler. Have to see her.
She's not a bad wrestler, but her presentation would be to come and help out, throw a finisher out on somebody, and just make a man look good. That's
that's a good one. That's a good one. But also you got to see her, and when Kiana James got pulled up to the main roster, they were doing some good work together in NXT together as her muscle. Again, Shawn Michaels stealing a little bit from Herman Big Daddy Cool Diesel with Kiana James. I'm not saying he booked Kiana like himself, but there was a little bit of a borrowing story with the big enforcer Kiana going to Izzy Dame as her backup. They were working. It was working, but they didn't let it blossom because they called Kiana up to the main roster, which didn't work. Because Kiana's
I'll say this: if creative was in a better light, I wouldn't even say that about Izzy Dame. I just want these ladies to get some TV time.
Yes,
they're gonna call up all these women. They're gonna have anything to do. Like you talked about Ivy Nile earlier today, and I'm just like, I see Ivy Nile as a good wrestler. You never see her on TV.
No,
it's a lot of women that's in that same boat, and it's just I'm just scared for I'm scared for the women because the women they're more talented than the men right now. The men are lacking when it comes up from NXT, but the women are strong. But as we see, they're going to have their favorites, and we're going to have just a lot of women in catering doing nothing.
And then they the first ones to really get the releases, and then the outrage come. The Dakota Kais and the other, Tegan Knox at the world and all that stuff. There's nothing right now. They're looking to cut salaries. Look. I'm praying and hoping that they do another women's evolution in July. I hope, I hope so.
They are. I mean, you can't put that toothpaste back in the tube. You can't. They made a lot of money off of that. They even though the people tell you the ratings were the lowest rated PLE, but the fact that you had almost 1 million eyes on that PLE, you can't ignore that. You can't.
No, that was the match of the year, PLE of the year, in my opinion. Yeah. You had that, that triple threat with Bayley, Lyra, and Becky. Tell me what put any triple threat against that. Better than the WrestleMania triple threat with Io Sky, Bianca, and Rhea Ripley.
Mm-hmm. It tells you a lot because this is just human nature. When you got something to prove, a chip on your shoulder, you're gonna get some work done. And the evolution too, the women had a chip on their shoulder. So they went out there and they put their best foot forward and they kicked some ass. And, the WWE, if they don't do anything else, they're going to have presentation. Your presentation is going to be A1. So you presented those women great and they did their jobs. So,
yes.
So they're going to have another evolution because they just got too many women on the roster to not do it.
Yeah, and what boggles my mind, they don't really need the divas or the ladies returning for that division. They have so many plethora of young women. They really don't need and great. I'm happy to see the Bellas. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they shouldn't be here, but it was a luxury to see the Bellas return and AJ Lee. Yeah, it was great. Sold some tickets. Punk. Maybe that's something closure to close the books. Maybe this is something for all these ladies to close the books on their wrestling career. With Vince no longer part of creative, they can have their total last run without Vince and knowing that the women's division in WWE is in better place when they left it the first time, and now they want to finish with knowing that it's going to pass the torch. Maybe that's something in their wrestling spirit, in their wrestling career, that they feel, okay, I came back and I'm going out on my terms where I actually am going to see the business is better when I'm leaving it. Maybe that's what the ladies returning. Hopefully that's the closure, but they really don't need the ladies. They got a lot of young, fresh talent.
I bet they don't need it. Unpopular opinion. the Bellas, AJ Lee, they could have stayed at home. They are handicapping the division from the fresh ladies that need work. Like, I'm just brass tacks right here. The Bellas in that tag match 2 weeks ago on SmackDown, Brie Bella, I don't know if it's ring rust or whatever. Those kicks were terrible. Nikki hasn't just been great since she's been back. Like, I liked it when she turned heel on Stephanie when they had the Survivor Series. But other than that, I can do without it. Same thing with AJ Lee. I don't need to see the Black Widow. I don't need to see it. So,
have a little bit of nostalgia run and all that stuff there. And it doesn't take away from the presentation of the women. And for Tatum Paxley, we'll find out what her defense of her women's North American title and where does Blake Monroe go. We'll find out this Tuesday there. Main event. We're at the main event here of the show. Main event, Tony D'Angelo, Joe Hendry, Ricky Saints, Ethan Page in a fatal four-way. The match, the absolute mayhem. Ricky Saints, Ethan Page started the match with a loose alliance that crumbled within minutes, where both men realized they couldn't trust one another there to take the pin. Joe Hendry had the crowd firmly behind him throughout the whole match, the whole night, but he was the primary target for everyone, from Tony D'Angelo to both Ricky Saints and Ethan Page. The finish, Joe Hendry seems to have the match won after a heavy slam on All Ego Ethan Page, but Tony D'Angelo, playing the wild card role to perfection, rushed in the ring, took advantage over the exhaustion, and pinned Joe Hendry, especially with that finisher, to become your new NXT World Champion. For Tony D'Angelo, completing a cycle, I said, the super senior finally graduates, winning a world title, because he's one of those that he was part of that 2.0 versus Black and Gold War Games that they had, the last remaining member of that group in NXT. For Tony, I thought Tony D'Angelo, I'm going to be honest with you, I thought a release was coming in his name, because how much more he was going to do the gimmick with the family and the mobster stuff. I don't think it was going to translate in the main roster, because they did that with FBI years ago, and that's not, I don't know. I didn't see any ceiling with Tony D, but the reinvention, and now at NXT World Champion, I'm open for it. I have an open mind. I want to see where it goes. Haas.
All right. I called it earlier today. I had Tony going over. And they kind of told on themselves during the match, because they said he's the only original character out here. They harped on that all through the commentary. So and I will say this, he had that most impressive double spear through the announcement table on Saints and Ethan Page. Spectacular. So yeah, Tony D, they've been strong on Tony D this whole calendar year. Back when Ava was still general manager, when they bailed him out of jail, they had him arrested, but they bailed him out. Good storyline. They have made him very dangerous, and they made him very interesting. And he was the main character for me to watch every Tuesday. I'm like, what is Tony D gonna do? And then when he took out Dark State so bad, knocked him to the mid card. Dion Lennox is going after the North American title now. We didn't even talk about that.
No, I buried a lead on that one. Yeah.
He went after Miles Bourne. So yeah, Tony D knocked them down to the mid card. So that's how strong he's been booked. But yeah, and I'm interested on what his path is going to be. I hope it's a decent title run. I'm talking about at least 3 to 4 months, because you can build up some strong heels with him, because he does have physical presence. And with Joe Hendry, Ricky Saints, and Ethan Page, I believe that all three of them are going to get called up very soon.
Yeah, you think so, huh?
Yeah, I think, because they're older guys, and they could be used on television today, because all wrestling fans know all three of these men. Like, you're not going to be caught off guard by any of them. Joe Hendry is sports entertainment. You need him on. He needs to be on Monday Night Raw. He needs to be there. And you could put Page and Saints on SmackDown, because they're good enough wrestlers where they can be wrestling Matt Cardona and Aleister Black and keep it fresh. We don't have to see the same bodies that we see every Friday. So I think all three of them going to get caught up after WrestleMania.
Okay. I didn't see this in the chat on the Rumble. 214 JR told me, Kev, the blackout screens was because JC Jane was having wardrobe malfunction. So I did not know that. There was a lot of blackout screens.
I was wondering why that was happening. And I actually did see this wardrobe malfunction on X. That some random guy ended up showing that picture. Kind of a weirdo guy to me, but I saw it. So yeah, there's that. But
Oh
yeah,
well.
I'm glad we got an explanation on that one.
So that guy that put that picture, he should get a sponsorship with Bounty.
Ha ha. A lot of people ain't gonna catch that, but yeah, I get what you put down, Kev. But yeah,
I
but
mean,
go ahead.
no. It was a relevance to that quote, that or Vaseline, whatever.
Oh man.
Hey, it's Saturday night. Have fun.
Oh man, let's get back to the match. But anyway, yeah, Tony. I believe Tony D's gonna probably get challenged by Keanu Carver pretty soon. They're gonna probably go back to Deion Lennox after he gets done doing with Miles Bourne. But it's just time to build up more heels to go after a strong baby face because Tony D is going to be transitional. He's not here for too long. It's going to be for a good enough ride though.
Yeah. I think he's going to be for a little bit. I think he's going to be one of those like Duke Hudson type of guys or Andre Chase that's been there for a little bit, help over. There's always going to be a story for the Don on NXT. It doesn't have to be the Don, but quote unquote like a Godfather Don of the NXT brand for Tony D'Angelo. I want to see what a world title run with Tony D looks like. He is when he came out, we used to do a lot of the symbols, a lot of the, it was exciting to watch come out with the family, but then we knew there was a ceiling, a certain ceiling and a level when it came to Tony D'Angelo. But I want to see this new character develop going forward. I was disappointed. I thought there was going to be something at the end of the show. Since they did it last, I said, well, what is there? They're going off. They're making this last because they want to leave us with a snap moment, or even a confetti or the celebration for Tony D'Angelo. No, it was just very bland the way they finish. Not even. I thought that was going to be okay. They're going to go backstage. Something happened backstage where like, oh damn, somebody got knocked or something. Where tune in or Robert Stone losing control. No, that was nothing. It just finished bland, which I was like, okay.
This where the formatting was wrong with this show. They should have ended with Soul and Zarya because if they would have did that and they would have had a little color. This was a blood feud. A little color would have been great for that match, and you could have had it in the show because that's a personal blood feud. So that was because Tony D, even though he's been in NXT that a good while, the people don't gravitate enough to just say, oh man, let's throw a ticker tape parade for him. They were saying you deserve it, but that's obligatory today. They said it to heels. Like if you won a title for the first time, you deserve it. And
yeah,
it's just obligatory at this point. But that's just a formatting issue. Like the PLE still strong, but you could have just done wonders with just changing here or there.
And even the placement of the match, I wouldn't mind Tony D'Angelo kicking it off as a world champion. If he would have switched the main event to the opening contest, I would have had no problem either. Because that's the swan song of JC Jane leaving. Mm-hmm. Possibly if we're not going to see her on television, if she leaves for the main roster, she disappears. Like the way, I believe when Oba lost the North American title to Tony D'Angelo, we didn't see Oba Femi for months. He was gone. He was disappeared. Normally when a champion drops the title, especially this in a stand and deliver on a big PLE, they go away for a little bit. Rarely. We'll find out on Tuesday if they go that way. I kind of would have liked JC Jane to close the main event, but then they did that at Madison Square Garden on Tuesday. So what are you really telling your men? How are you going to reinforce your men's locker room? Having on your biggest show, quote unquote PLE, they're not even going to close the main event against the women. But
that's how you send a message. Like
that too.
We gotta be honest, Kev. Like, okay. Tony D just won the men's title. Is he a bigger character than Sol Ruka?
No.
Is he a bigger character than Lola Vice or JC Jane?
No, right now, no.
That's how you send a message to your men's locker room and say y'all need to tighten up.
Because and the reason, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, the reason why I say that, Lola Vice is over in two wrestling companies, AAA and NXT, and JC Jane was over in TNA as well as NXT. Where Tony D'Angelo, if he shows up in a TNA, they'll laugh at him. There's better wrestlers and there's better, stronger men wrestlers in TNA.
Yes.
So that's why I say that, Huss.
Yeah, there's no disrespect to Tony D, but we just know, like, the real know why you tune into NXT. The women carry that show every week. So, and Soul and Zarya is a bigger deal than Tony D winning that belt. That's just point blank, period. So, and this is just old school booking. They like, oh man, this is our biggest show of the year. We gotta end with the men's title. But the men's title right now, you're finna put it on a guy. He's not irrelevant, but he's not big as these other women that you have up that's in front of him. So, I mean, he's not bigger than Blake Monroe. And it's just a fact. But that's no slight to them. But the men's program right now is rebuilding. The women are strong. It's gonna end up flipping soon enough. But yeah, you got to highlight who is the strength of your show right now.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. They need to highlight and accentuate the strength of the show. And look, even Shawn Michaels said this when I'm talking about himself in a wrestling career. Whenever he had a match, he'll say, "Follow that, guys." He said that many times in interviews. So he should tell his locker room, "Follow that," or hey, you didn't like the main event, follow that. You want to be the main event, you need to follow. You know what? Beat that out there, guys. Go out work these ladies. Or the ladies where I've worked these men, because the main event is up for grabs. Show me your work. And look, the rest of the main event in the women's scene, no matter who they put in any combination, it's gonna outshine right now any of the men's. To be honest with you, how much more you?
Fact, because the thing about it, the strongest man on this card today was Shawn Michaels, and that's when he was out there with Sexy Red. That's the biggest selling point for the men on this show. And again, not a slight, but Shawn Michaels is Shawn Michaels. That's just who he is.
Yeah.
So, but the thing about it, like, we just can't have that. Just say, okay, men go last because that's just what we do. No, they have to be bigger on the card, and that's just not it. Because we started the show with Sexy Red and Shawn Michaels. We end the show with Tony D'Angelo. Who do you know?
Sexy Red and Shawn Michaels. Regardless. You know, even if you don't like Sexy Red, you know who Sexy Red is.
And this is letting you know they're trying to get more women to watch the show.
Yes, I totally agree with you. They're definitely, absolutely. They definitely want to get more of the female, and they are, believe it or not, because they're showing women power.
Yes.
They're showing how strong the women, no matter, and it's not normally the typical, picking. It's not Nia Jax who's the one that's dominating. No, the Kendall Gray, what is she, 155 pounds soaking wet, maybe? And even that, I'm even probably saying that she probably weighs less than that, and she's a hell of a damn wrestler. Mm-hmm. It shows you that comes. Dizzy Dane was like 6'2", or 6'1", whatever the case is, and she looks phenomenally impressive. Zarya, her presentation, I mean, my goodness, the powerhouse that she is. They come in all different sizes. Jada Parker, Kalani, they're all different in different styles. Even Tatum Paxley, and either one, if you tell me you put them in the main event scene, they'll deliver. They'll stand and deliver, literally what the show was tonight. And I think the women's division does that. The men's got a lot of catching up to do. Maybe this triple threat coming up on Tuesday with Keanu Carver, Josh Briggs, and Jasper Troy. I'm interested to see who the hell is going to officiate it.
Man, I don't know what they're going to sell with that, because it should be very interesting with that. I believe that they may have Tony D officiated.
It'd be interesting to see. Maybe Undertaker could officiate it. There was some respect, some legend, or Bully Ray ain't doing nothing at the Performance Center, but taking up air and space. Put him in as a right. He said he was the greatest referee in WrestleMania 40. He was the reason. He's the reason why WrestleMania 40 was over, because he was the referee there for the 6-man tag. Put him in there. Let him officiate that match there between those big men on Tuesday.
I got the idea. Get Booker T to do it.
Oh my goodness! Imagine that. I don't know if Keanu Carver. I think he'll beat up on Booker T instead of the other wrestlers. I mean, he really wants a piece of Booker T badly.
Again, the storylines would write themselves. That would cook, sir. That would cook.
No, that will cook indeed. One thing I wanted to talk about that we saw the beginning of the dissension in Dark State with Sugars and Dion Lennox kind of pushing aside on the stairs. And it's funny because Sugar said the same thing. Y'all made me fly all the way to St. Louis and you didn't even count me in this attack, and yeah, just to be in the stairs. I mean, my goodness, what a waste.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know the direction with Dark State. I feel like they think they probably topped out early with them because they did, what they beat the Hardys not too long ago in that nice match and everything. So with Dark State, it's gonna be an interesting travel with them because, like I say, Tony D knocked him to the mid card. So I want to know what Dion Lennox. He has to beat Miles Bourne soon, just to rebound. He has to beat him soon.
You know what? I didn't think about that. You know what? I could see that because let's face it, 2 out of the 4 members of Dark State, in my opinion, are the ones that are going to get really over and pushed. To me, it's going to be Osiris Griffin and Dion Lennox because of the size factor.
I agree with you. I agree with you completely. Yeah,
because Cutler James has a personality of paint drawing. Okay, and Sugars. Okay, I don't see anything in Sugar. I don't know. I don't know. Doesn't scream wrestler to me. He sounds like he just seems like a hustler, and I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't seem wrestler. It doesn't scream wrestler to me. I don't know if it's just me, but he reminds me of Scripps, Reggie, aka yeah. He kind of, and it's not because of the skin color. It's because of the way his mannerisms and like okay. What in his in-ring work? What is there? Give me something. Show me something. He could talk. I don't know if he's gonna. Remember, we talked about mouthpiece as a manager. He is the one that actually could talk best out of all of them. Out of the whole Dark State, he's the best promo.
The thing with Dark State is, I know like everybody could use refinement in development. They really could use refinement, but if you keep Dark State there too long, people are gonna stop caring. And I mean, that's with any of those tag teams that like Hank and Tank are ready for the main roster right now.
I don't want to see them nowhere near the main roster. I know that's they peaked at their high ceiling.
I understand, but they are a real tag team. That's all I'm saying. Like
yes,
like we got the only way we're gonna save the main roster is to bring some of those guys up and let them be tag teams for about 5 years. Like don't even just think about separating anybody.
And that's the problem. WWE immediately when you have a good tag team, they're already putting an angle to separate them in dissension. They're doing it with the machine guns. Why?
Yeah, the machine guns are 40 plus. Like who you finna push to be a singles champion? Nobody. So what's the point?
They're great. Shelly, Sabin are great and individuals too. They've got their resume to prove that they're a great individual singles wrestler. But like you said, they're at an age. Keep them together. Let them work together as a team. They work phenomenal. They're one of the best tag teams in the world. Keep it together. Let them go out there together where they don't have to both go do 25 minutes solo. They could do 25 minutes and 10 and 15 on a given night or whatever the case is. They could split them. They don't have to be blown out or winded in a match. They could tag in and out and work the rate. Tonight I don't feel great. You'll be the workhorse, vice versa. What's the problem, with separating tag teams? I would like to see, you know what? I know Hank and Tag had a very good run in Japan in Noah, and they were tag team champions. And like you said, keep them together, work and wait. I'd like to see if they could get over in AAA. I kind of would like to see them, Hank and Tank, go up against the Clowns, Psycho Clowns. They've got, a couple of tag teams there in AAA. Let's see how they could get, if the Mexican crowd could gather and change them. Or not change them, but elevate them and say, you know what? And maybe they could install some confidence and say, you know what? We could do it beyond the Performance Center. We are a hell of a tag team. And that confidence level, because they have won tag team titles and they won Noah tag team champions. Mm-hmm. Let's try them in AAA before we thinking and pushing them in the main roster where they're not pushing tag teams right now. It'll be a shame to bring them up because I think I'm waiting for any day to hear the bad news that Julius and Brutus Creed are going to get released because they're not even being used, my friend.
And they're not. And for what I found out, They say they're not being used because they botched it with Damian Priest a year or two ago. They ended up hurting Damian Priest or something. That's what I heard. I don't know how much. I saw videos for it, but I don't know how much truth that is. But backstage politics and whatever. But they say that's probably what happened to him. But you can't keep those guys off TV when you got who are the tag champions right now? Raw is Division, and SmackDown it's
Truth and Damian.
Truth and Damian. Like, come on, what's the shelf life on them over there? I can see the vision. Logan Paul he's a planet by himself. He can carry Austin Theory. He can do that. But Truth and Damian Priest, how long they gonna have them belts? Just be for real. How long they gonna have them?
No, and Haas, with the amount of natural tag teams in SmackDown, it's a disservice that. And I love Truth and Damian. We talked about it earlier today. The representation for us being for me and Chris being Puerto Rican descendant in New York, for me and Damian from my backyard and going and all that good stuff. Not to start harping on that. But for them putting them together, two singles, and to win a tag team when you have natural tag teams like Axiom, what's the point of rushing them, bringing them up to the main roster if you're going to have them now just being, crate watchers? Because that's what they did. They were watching the crate, like if it was a freaking egg. The Motor City Machine Guns, you brought the most decorative tag team in TNA history and in tag team wrestling and didn't do nothing. You had the Good Brothers. You're the Street Profits, not even on television since October. They've got natural great tag teams in that company, in that brand, and you're not even using them. And it just frustrates me because why are we going to want to bring up another tag team to the main roster? And then you put those titles on makeshift. Well, you need a partner on your partner. We'll tag and we'll win it. I'm having an issue with that. At least with JD McDonough and Finn Balor, they were protege student. Like for instance, I'll give an example, and he's not a tag team. But if Nathan Frazier would team up with Seth Rollins and they win the tag team titles, he's a student of Rollins. That's master and teacher teaming together. I could understand that. The same thing we're seeing in TNA with Brad Brunson and Brian Myers. They master and teacher, student teacher from the same wrestling school. But they're not going to tell that story because we know it, because we know the ins and outs of professional wrestling, maybe wrestling geeks, whatever you want to call us, whatever that's the case. But we know that. And when it comes here, I kind of wish WWE would keep natural tag teams. Keep natural tag teams, put the titles on natural tag teams, and make it a nice division. You have time. You have 3 hours of SmackDown. There's no reason why we couldn't have a couple of tag team stories, couple of tag team matches. I guess they're afraid of having redundant tag team matches with the same teams. Then, that's why I go back. Some people would like to see one tag team title. The same, because the women division has it. Why can't not the men? Make one tag team title then. And they could.
Kev, we ain't got to talk about redundancy. We have seen the Usos and LA Knight go against Division for a year and a half straight.
Exactly.
Like the WWE has been redundant for a long time. Because Natty and Maxine are still going there. How long that's been? 4 or 5 months now. And
they think just because they haven't been on TV for a while, cool it off. We're gonna forgetting about it. It's another fresh match. I'm sorry, no, I don't. No.
So, I'm with you with the tag team division. They could do a whole lot more, but again, we keep talking about creative. It's always on creative because of the talent. The talent can only do with what they're given, and it's sad. It's just sad. But coming back to NXT, they're doing their jobs. I give Shawn Michaels a raise. They're doing their jobs. So yeah,
and then. For those people, we said this earlier today. NXT has what they have in creative is ex-wrestlers doing the storytelling and the storyline from Matt Bloom, from Norman Smiley, from Terry Taylor, from Brookside. You've got. I know I'm missing some good coaches that are in there. Jazz, Shawn Michaels, it's Fit Finley. Those are ex-wrestlers. When you go to SmackDown, I know you have your agents but the writers are a bunch of people that are disconnected with the brand. That's why we're noticing the big difference from NXT television to WWE creative because of that reason and that reason alone. Listen, one of the big things that still bothers me, they should have never gotten rid of the NXT Women Tag Team titles. I think that's needed rather than the other. And I know the mid card, I know the women's world, the new women's North American has been a great thing, but with the type of talent that they keep bringing in women, the tag team titles was kind of needed there because let's face it, they were supposed to be the women's tag team titles were going to come to NXT to defend it against teams there. No, they don't really do it. They don't really go to the Performance Center. They do it outside of it. And how many times we wanted to see Jakara and Lash taking on Jade and Bianca, and we only got that in Saudi with a mix in a 4-4-way. We never got to see them one-on-one. Or if they did it outside of the Performance Center. It was a disservice that they did there, and that was a stupid decision to merge those titles at that time because NXT had a lot of plethora of women. They still do where those titles should have stood on NXT. Yeah, and they decided to merge those titles was the most stupidest decision I say until today.
Well, I will say this. You know how I know you say you don't watch a lot of AEW television, but you know the biggest gripe in AEW to me is too many belts.
Mm-hmm.
You need to bring another belt for the women on the main roster for WWE. Like if you want to bring back, bring the European. You remember the European Championship what we had back in
another singles title?
Yes, because the reason I say this is it will make TV. You give the women something else to do because we keep like we just talked about redundancy with the men. You know how we've been seeing the same men for a year and a half. Give the women another belt. I mean another one. We get the roster is too big unless they finna do a roll of massive cuts. I'm talking about you cut 25% of the women roster. No, we can't be having all these people that's not on television. Give these people something to do. Like, are you going to really focus on making women's tag team wrestling a real thing? Are they going to really do that? Or are they going to keep giving us the big singles women and say, oh, yeah, here, we're going to pair you up every 2 years and we're going to push these titles? We know why you pushed them because AEW started getting women's titles. We know why you pushed them.
Right. So, but then they don't put natural tag teams. They decided, let me get the two biggest single stars and make them a team, and Rhea Ripley and Io Sky, and they'll be the tag team champions. Or Charlotte and granted, Charlotte and Alexa have worked. And I personally, honestly, if Charlotte never becomes a singles world champion or singles wrestler again, I'm okay if she stays as a women's tag team. If she stays as a tag team with Alexa, I'm okay with that. For the rest of her career, or for a longer time, I have no problem with that. And it's not that I don't want to see Charlotte. Charlotte is one of the greatest female wrestlers of all time. Wrestlers, period. But right now, it's working for her as a tag team. Work rate right, health-wise, and interesting-wise for both her and Alexa. They don't need to split it. But I don't like when they make this, your singles and singles, we'll put you together and we're going to be a team. And we're the same thing with True. I don't know if another title answers the bill, in my opinion, Haas. I'm going to disagree with you for a moment there. But I also said, and I'm going to steal this from my other partner, Chef Dan. They should actually, instead of Evolve or at least an hour show, like they have a main event, they should bring back WCW, but not World Championship Wrestling, Women's Championship Wrestling, and make it a women's show for 1 hour. And you could showcase some of but make sure you showcase women that are not being used Monday, on Monday Night Raw and SmackDown. Like the Ivy Niles. See if that gets interested people watching and get them over. If they get over naturally with this, you have the same venues, arenas. Put some of the matches there with some of the women that are not seen. You could bring some of the ladies that you don't see in NXT. So when they get onto the main roster, there's no crickets. Like a Candice LeRae could be working. Candice LeRae is a hell of a worker. Yeah. She shouldn't be really, and she could wrestle well, but she gets no pop. She gets no reaction when she comes out because they don't give her enough time. You shouldn't care for her because they're pushing Rhea Ripley, Io Sky, because they need to put that in their main eventers. We got to make sure they get, these world title pictures getting going. That's why the United States title women has been a little bit of a lackluster. I was one who's advocating we needed mid-card titles for both brands, for both men and women, for the women on US and Intercontinental. They haven't been really hitting too much because they never put great stories behind it. They had Chelsea Green that was good, but that's it. And then that title has been bland because they don't give it enough storytelling time with those titles, Haas.
Oh, I agree with you. I agree with you completely because characters should still be interesting without a title in their hands.
Yes.
And Chelsea Green is like that. She's very interesting without a title in her hands. But Julia without a title in her hands, it's going to be tough sailing. It's going to be very tough sailing. And I like Julia. I do.
They rushed them too quick to the main roster. Both
Oh,
Julia.
I agree with you.
Because
Go ahead.
I thought they were rushing them because damn, they really want to put Julia and Stephanie Vicaire for this WrestleMania. Be honest with you, they should have found some way somehow for having them wrestle this WrestleMania. Julia versus Stephanie Vicaire should have been this year's WrestleMania match. For a title or no title, because those ladies have a lot of history. Mm-hmm. And when those ladies are together, they make magic in the ring. And I'm surprised that they're not tapping into that. The same way people are going excited that they're dying to see this Julia Dragunov and Gunther match that happened in NXT UK. Well, for me, my one that I want to watch is Julia versus Stephanie Vicaire in a WWE ring. Let them cook, let them do that, and relive the magic that they had over in the Far East. That's just me.
When it comes to the main roster fans, the ones that are buying the tickets, they're not the biggest of marks. So when they get up here and they see these, especially the women, they're very what's the word I'm looking for?
They sit on their hands.
Yeah, they don't know they really don't know what to root for. They don't know. So when you see Stephanie Vicaire do the Devil's Kiss, a lot of people on the internet, they hate when you bring it up. She's more than the Devil's Kiss. I know that. But just to be honest, no one cares about the spiral tap. They don't. It's just the truth. They know she looks good, and they know what she does. So we have to be honest about that. So you got to present them as such. So I'm not just saying have Stephanie Vicaire go do the Devil's Kiss 3 times. I'm not saying that. But you have got to find a way to keep these people interesting. That's just it. Like you play with Stephanie Vicaire's music. You nerf the music. Then you go up here. She can't speak English that well. So you're not gonna give her a manager. You're gonna have Dom translate for her in this live build. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? And the same thing with Julia. You gave her Kiana James. Kiana James looks good. Kiana James is not that interesting herself. So we're asking another uninteresting woman to get the foreign woman over that can't speak English. Like, you should have gave Julia the Miz or somebody. It would have been very fun. But no, you're going to piss people off like, oh, the woman don't need no man. That's what you're going to be hearing. That's what you're going to hear. But you give Julia our truth, and you tell me Julia ain't going to be interested in a week from now? It's just, the stuff is right there. You already have the tools, but creative, they don't have it up here. They do not have it up here. It's just like, let's make good television. They just don't have it.
Or they don't have the goals to do it because they want to keep it, like they call them, safe. They want to keep it safe, paint by numbers. You know what? Let's not try nothing because we don't want to upset them apple cart. We don't want to swing, try to get a grand slam. We're just going to go for a nice, safe infield single. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate you so much, man. Thank you so much, Chris, for the super chat. Thank you. Definitely. A great review. Awesome. Appreciate you. And Haas, man, we're going to wrap this up in a few seconds here. To me, the match of the night, in my opinion, was the opener, the triple threat NXT women title, because for me, it hit watching JC Jane, like I just finished saying in the opener, from her very, she's one of the reasons in Toxic that got me watching NXT along with Braun, and going to the Performance Center and being at the 2.0 era, seeing Toxic Attraction was super over, and then seeing the split, and then it didn't work with her and Gigi. Their matches one-on-one sucked when they broke up Toxic Attraction because of Mandy Rose's issues, whatever the case is, and then her not persevering and not giving up, whether reinventing herself and Chase U, doing that, getting that little bit over, working with Fallon, doing all this stuff, and to see her shock the world and beat Stephanie Vicaire and then taking off with her confidence and then winning the TNA Knockouts title, and then seeing all that growth and progression and confidence in JC Jane, to me, match of the night. And then seeing Valerie Lorena and the Bellator when I used to accompany my son cover MMA, and seeing Valerie continue to grow and then turn into Lola Vice and coming into the world of professional wrestling and getting over and representing the Latinas, from the Caribbean island, from Cuba, and I understand their history. I'm not Cuban, but I understand their history, their pride and the barriers that they're trying to break, and her to come to WWE and become champion and all the obstacles, great to see. And for Kendall Gray, my goodness, this young lady storming, out there, which you can look at her and say she looks like she should be working as a nurse assistant because she's so petite and great, but she's a hell of a grappler, wrestler. And to me, that's why it's match of the night because I loved everything about it. And to me, that's my match of the night.
All right. And I know I said it earlier. My match of the night was the North American Women's Championship. Tatum Paxley and Blake Monroe are what's right about the women's division. And we could always say it's wrestling and with grappling. The biggest thing is with the character work. Yes. Every woman in that locker room, even the men, they could go in there and look at that match and be like, those women were very interesting. There was not a boring segment in that match at all. I mean, from the facial cues to just the physical, visceral sounds they made. Like it looked like they were tearing each other apart. You saw how upset they were when they were those near falls. You saw how upset and distraught Blake was when she landed that glamour shot and it didn't work. Like, and then you just like that vignette where Tatum came out and just says, "You man," the whole dollhouse effect. It just shows you like there's so much potential in wrestling that goes beyond the finishing moves and the signature moves that people just don't understand. This medium, it could go back to being great. It really could be. It could be mainstream in all three branches. It really could. So my match tonight goes to those two women because they did their jobs. I was thoroughly entertained. I didn't even care who won the match. It was just very fun and entertaining to watch for 12, 15 minutes. Very good to watch. My match of the night.
Yeah, and then not a bad match on Stand and Deliver, believe it or not. And I was a little worried. I'm gonna be totally honest with you. I said, man, this is a 1,700 square foot, a square 1,500 seat arena. It has St. Louis. It's not really riding off of the high of the WrestleMania weekend. Normally, this stage usually gets 7,000 to 5,000, anywhere from 5,000 to 7,000, 8,000 people for the Stand and Deliver for the last 3 years. They were actually downgrading standalone TV. I don't know how they're going to do it without getting main roster wrestlers or, oh my God, this main roster wrestler is going to be there. Oh, they could easily said if Randy was not part of the main event and he was a babyface, he would have definitely be in this match some way, somehow, guest host or whatever. But man, it was great. Chris says I enjoyed the shit out of the triple threat match, and I really like the story more than Blake and Tatum. Okay, and you know what? That's right there behind it. To me, anyone that's why I told you, Haas, any one of these matches that you pick and you say it's your favorite match of the night, I can't rebuttal it. I mean, they bought it. Stand and delivered yes, on a night on its standalone and to the point where harsh critics like JD was actually enjoying the show. He's a harsh critic, and he enjoyed it
because he knows this is what he wants on main roster television. This is what he wants. And I'm right there with him. Like when we talked about, we graded by lightsabers here. This show was 5 lightsabers. Like,
yes,
there was no boring, there was no down moments. Even though I said the men's championship shouldn't have finished the show, it belonged on the show. It was
absolutely.
It. So this was, and then this was great for the WWE because this was your first PLE on YouTube. So you got new eyes on the product and you knocked it out of the park. So I hand clap to them. Yes,
the whole card, just the undercard was great. Yeah. You could see, what? They're not my cup of coffee, but Vanity Project could be future studs for that brand going forward. They're young. They got a lot to learn. It's just right now they're not hitting for me. They're not my cup of coffee currently right now. And then we didn't even talking about Kaylee Armstrong. I'm big on Kaylee Armstrong, by the way.
Yes, the presentation. You're going to hear that a lot from me. Like that woman has great presentation. Like you just see it. Like
trust me.
And shout out to Evolve. All these people that we see that come from Evolve showed out tonight. Kendall Gray, the Vanity Project, and that's a few more that I can name. But those two acts right there, it just shows you that program is cooking right now.
And speaking of Evolve, if you're watching and you're hearing us, you got to check out the PUWF podcast on YouTube. That's the podcast of unappreciative wrestling fans. My friend Alex Coquito, you have D-Walk and others. Part of that group, they watch Evolve and they break them down from reviews, the pay-per-views. I think one of the few in maybe a handful that actually does Revolve recaps, reviews, and all knee deep in the Evolve brand. They check it out. I have no time for Evolve. I did the first episode, and I Wednesdays I have no time with AEW, with interviews. That's when I like to do the interviews on Wednesdays and so forth. I just don't have the time to watch Evolve. And I would like to, but you know what? Let Alex. Alex is doing a freaking job and a friend of the show for many years, and he's doing a hell of a good job there. Check out for anything that has to do with Evolve. Alex Coquito, Rican Reactions, the PUWF. Definitely check them guys out. They're doing a hell of a job. His girlfriend is on there, the Invisible Woman. They love Evolve, and they break that down from all aspects of it, and they must feel proud. I personally I was there in person when Kaylee Armstrong lost her title to Kendall Gray in Evolve. I was at the arena. I was there at the Performance Center. To me, I love Kaylee Armstrong. I said Kaylee Armstrong, if they would have put her up as Jade Cargill's baddie with Jada Parker, I actually said that months ago. I would love to see Jada Parker, Kaylee Armstrong, and Jade Cargill, let them be their kind of a baddie. Let them go out there, and that's how much high I think of Kaylee Armstrong. She's a bad mother trucker.
I believe they just waiting on for Soul and Jason Tatum to get called up. Then they're going to call her up right after that.
Yeah, because you don't want her to get lost with opportunities and chances. And she comes up, and she's gonna be one of those that's gonna command she's gonna command your attention when she come up. And she's not gonna come up with the typical, because they're gonna say, oh, it's just a typical black woman attitude. No. When she looks, you'll be like, oh shit. She's gonna stop. She's gonna stop you in your tracks because she looks impressive. She is impressive, and she is the next future. Women.
I'll tell you one more lady that needs to be, she just needs a gimmick refresh. Tyra May Steele.
They give that's something missing.
Yeah, just give her a real character. She already has physical presence. It's just she just don't have. She's boring, but she's an Olympian. Just give her something. Just something, give her something that can sell you. Just like, okay, that's a badass wrestler. That's just what it is.
Because if you watch LFG, Bubba Ray was saying you're a heel, and I don't know if and maybe she is a heel, and she needs to embrace that. She needs to go in that heel, but what kind of a heel is she? And it's the problem. And I hate to say this because wrestling fans want to stereotype when it comes to certain ethnicity. Oh, we're just being a bitter black lady. That's with Jade Cargill. No, if she's a mean woman. And her heel run, let her be the heel run. When you want her to be rainbows and compliment people, if she's a bad bitch, she thinks she's the confident, arrogant bitch that Jade Cargill is. Let her be that. The same thing with Jada Parker. I believe that she makes it believe that she's from the streets. Like you ain't gonna fuck with her because she's out from the streets. She's gonna kick your ass with She came up with OTM. Regardless, she sells that because little that she's from a good home. She lives in Fort Lauderdale. I mean, in down South Florida, where she had a nice, So it's funny how you think of certain things, but that's good character work, Haas, because she made you believe.
Yeah.
So
I be defending Jada Parker, and I catch flack for it on the internet because she has the similar baggage like Tessa has when we talked about on TNA earlier.
Yeah.
She said the remarks about a certain community, and. And I'm just saying, like, if you don't forgive these people, you're not gonna like anyone. So that I will defend Jada Parker because she has that presence and she's a decent wrestler. Talking about, oh, she's a botch machine and she's just like the man. She likes Jey Uso and this. I'm like, whatever. She's good on television. I don't care what you say about that. Like, if you don't like somebody, sure. But even then, I could not like somebody and still like them on television. I don't like CM Punk. But hey, he belongs on my TV. It's just a fact. He might be my wrestler of the year so far. I can't stand him.
Right, I get you. There's wrestlers, there's wrestlers you just can't stand, but you got to give them the flowers. They're really good. They're important to the business. They have a purpose. Look, when I saw Jada Parker come out for the very first time on a house show, wrestle her first match, I remember telling my wife, "This girl's gonna be this girl got an it factor. She's got the look, and I have not been wrong. Joe Lola, I'm happy to see her first match. I said, "Ooh, that was fun." If you look at Stand and Deliver 2 years ago, before WrestleMania 39, I was part of the promo where Braun Breaker versus Carmelo Hayes. They asked me, and I said, "Braun Breaker." I goes, "Who are you going for, Carmelo Hayes or Braun Breaker?" I go, "It's Braun Breaker all day. He's the future." Am I wrong? You heard Paul Heyman say it. I said that WrestleMania 39, Stand and Deliver 30 WrestleMania 39 weekend. And I said that in March before they even did that, when they went to Sanford on the promo. They asked me and they used my promo on Stand and Deliver. I was like, oh my God, I didn't even notice that. I popped because I didn't know I was going to be part of the Stand and Deliver main event package. And I was like, oh damn, I have the footage. I'll show you off there on the footage. I keep that vested to my heart. It was cool. That was cool. And Braun Breaker is the future. I didn't tell him. I could see certain wrestlers that I think could get over and has a future for at least a good part. And not that I'm trying to blow my own horn here. It's just you could see it. You could tell when certain mannerisms. I remember telling my wife, JC has that mannerisms of a big time heel. Like she has that, and she does. JC Jane will never work as a babyface.
No, not at all. Not at all.
No, she's that heel that when you're like, damn, you appreciate. But all in all, this is a great Stand and Deliver. This review here was great. I'm looking forward to do more NXT reviews with you, Haas. We appreciate that. This is the brand that right to the back of my home here in Orlando. I'm a hop skip away from it. Hopefully we get on. Hopefully I could bring on as a guest for one of these NXT review the creator of all the chants of NXT in the Performance Center. The guy who I wanted to bring him on and have him join us because he has. I want to give him his flowers because there's a chant that's going crazy all over the main roster. We heard it in Madison Square Garden. We hear it everywhere. We're going to hear it at WrestleMania, and I want to give him his flowers on our channel. I want to bring him on because good friend, and he's the reason why everyone chants for a certain wrestler, a Rula, and I want to give him his flowers. Yeah, and I want him to tell the story how that chant came out. Oh yeah, that was natural. That was born in the Performance Center by two gentlemen. I'm gonna try to see if I get them both. They're good friends, a good friend of our program. I want to give them their flowers. Because if it wasn't for those chants in NXT, they don't go over in the main roster. That's why I get frustrated when I don't hear Mellow. The Mellow chant should get big in the main roster, but again, we'll digress. But Haas, this was freaking phenomenal. This was great. And if I don't talk to you tomorrow, enjoy your Easter. Everyone enjoy your Easter as well. Man, follow us on our channels. Follow us on our YouTube platform. Help us continue to grow our Sports Jedi Network channel. Of course, Haas as well joining us here. We're going to be doing some different more reviews of NXT, AEW, the main roster, weekly wrestling. This has been a great Saturday evening. And guys, may the sports be with you. I always tell you this. If you're driving, make sure you give those keys. If you're drinking and you don't drive, make sure you put those keys to designated driver, get an Uber, or arrive alive, because we want you to make sure you join us back on the live stream, on the stream, safe and sound, and also be aware of your surroundings. Yeah, we're in a crazy world. So if you're going out, whether clubbing, hanging out, having a drink, cocktail, whatever, be aware of your surroundings, be safe, and may God bless you guys all. We'll see you next time here on the Sports Jedi Network, man.